My name is Mark. This is Zen Talk. In this series, we'll be talking about building the strong Sangha, and this will be part 1. All right. So, the Sangha is people. That would be sentient beings. And I will even go as far as to include sentient beings from other worlds, other galaxies, and even other dimensions. But basically anybody who can be classified as a sentient being would be those that have the ability to not only realize their Buddha nature, but become Buddha themselves. Alright, so strictly speaking, a Sangha is formed when 3 people who have taken refuge in the 3 treasures of Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha practice together. Now, this can be an ad hoc Sangha, or this could be a permanent Sangha. So, their Sangha will perform a few general activities, and the big one is the affirming and reaffirming the commitment to the Bodhisattva Path, and of course, usually to the 3 treasures, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. The Sangha also teaches the law of the Buddha, that's the Dharma, a lot of times, just their studying of the sutras, and also more of the pondering of what does the sutras, what are they teaching. The assisting of fellow Sangha members with practice according to the Dharma law, and oftentimes with material support. That would be if the Sangha is supporting monks, or priest, might be needing material support of some sort. And lastly, the Sangha, which is very important, is the spreading of Buddha's teachings to all sentient beings. This is the Bodhisattva's path, which is an evangelical path to spread the teachings. All right, so as bodhisattvas, we practice the Bodhisattva Path. So we come together as sentient beings committed to the path, and together we meditate. Now, meditation is more to center our minds, so we center our minds in the non-abiding, the middle way, which would be a neutral position between the extremes. And this is a very general description of Buddhist meditation, and we often seek this centering of our mind, this not abiding in the extremes, this being in the middle way, this neutral position. And a lot of times people will say that they find calm, they find bliss, they find clarity. And if you think about it, this would be like a ship on the ocean, and if it's caught in the seas and the swells, it goes up and down, sideways, left and right. It can be quite, people call it getting it seasick out there. But when you find that spot in the ocean where it's between the seas and the swells, suddenly everything is calm. You could be in the middle of a violent storm, but if you position your boat, your mind, in such a way, you suddenly can see the violent sea around you, but you're completely calm. All right, so we also come together to study the law of the Buddha, to hear the Dharma for ourselves. And this can be anything from reading out of the sutras to listening to a commentary from a Sangha elder. These are or even to recite as a group. We call it chanting various core points of the sutras. All right, so we also confess our hindrances, our dilemmas, our troubles to our brothers and sisters. And there's actually a full confession ritual that all Buddhists go through. Now, confession isn't to give our brothers and sisters leverage over us. Confession is more or less to just bear witness to our own suffering. and to bear witness to those issues that keep us from making one step more towards enlightenment. All right, so lastly, we assist our fellow Sangha members in achieving Buddhahood. And to assist would be to not only lend material support, maybe to help with, food and money and housing and the things that maybe the renunciates and some of our brothers and sisters who are not doing so well may need, but also to assist in the moral support, the encouragement, the somebody to remind us why we are there, somebody to help us, come back to the Bodhisattva path if we stray from the path. This is extremely important, and without the fellow assists of our Sangha members, it is easy to see that the Bodhisattva path is too hard, and people quit. This happens actually quite a lot. All right, so the life of the Bodhisattva. The Bodhisattva makes the deepest commitment, though this is interpreted and defined by each Bodhisattva differently and each Sangha differently. And I cannot stress this more, that each individual Bodhisattva will interpret their path and the Bodhisattva path somewhat differently than probably how you do it. And then if they're with a Sangha, each Sangha will also have a slightly different take on it. And this is why there are different Sanghas. In Buddhism, there is no such thing as a big tent. There is no such thing as one size fits all. There's no such thing as one teacher for everybody. We don't have a pope. We don't have a Dalai Lama. This is something in Zen that is very well recognized, that everybody comes to Buddhism with their own personality and their own disposition and their own character. And what one Sangha does may not work for one particular person. So that's why there are different teachers, different styles, different Sanghas. So I also need to make it very clear that the Bodhisattva is not the bhikkhu or the bhikkhuni. This would be the Vinaya holders, like the ones that wear the yellow or the saffron or even the orange robes in South Asia. So we are not these guys. Those guys are a different path. It's called Theravada, and it's just another variation of the Buddhist path. They don't follow the Bodhisattva path, but the Bodhisattva path is definitely talked about in their tradition. So even though the Bodhisattva is not the bhikkhu, however, a Bodhisattva may be a renunciate by taking the Samanara vows in Zen. And the Samanara vows are the vows of renunciation. And these are usually 10 vows. They could be 8 vows in the southern Asian countries, but generally they're 10 vows. And in the southern Asian countries, the bhikkhu would call the samanera like the beginner monk or the novice monk. So the Bodhisattva may also be a layperson who lives a householder life. So the Bodhisattva does not have to be a renunciate. The Bodhisattva can be the layperson as well. And each one, I would say, one is not higher than the other, one is not more learned than the other, one is not more special than the other. This would be an equal footing here between the Bodhisattva renunciate and the Bodhisattva layperson. So some I also decide to create families to bring new sentient beings into this world, to teach the Dharma to give an opportunity for a better rebirth to those who need it. Now, this is a view that is not expressed hardly at all in the Zen centers, Most of the people who wander into the Zen centers, at least here in the West, tend to find the more renunciate path, or the path of the hermit, the path of the solo practitioner. Maybe they'll find lay people who do not want children. They just sort of cohabitate. But there are also a lot of bodhisattvas who will create families to bring children into the world, teach them Dharma, and thus they're giving the opportunity for rebirth to somebody who worked hard in the last life to practice Buddhism. So even though Buddhism is heavily monastic, the later Mahayana sutras opened up the Bodhisattva path that reveals a path beyond the monastic rules and rituals. And I think this is important, that early on in Buddha's ministry, it was all about the monastic, all about the renunciants and the ascetics. Then, but more towards the later part and the very last part of the Buddha Sutras, what they call the Mahayana Sutras, that sort of changed and morphed into the Bodhisattva path that was beyond monastic rules and the rituals of the bhikkhu. All right, so we should now talk about the institutions of Buddha. So the churches of Buddha is where the Sangha comes together. And this is where the bodhisattvas meet and where the Dharma laws are heard and spread. This would be organized religion. For some, this is not something that they're interested in, and for others, this may be a way to just talk to other bodhisattvas, maybe gain some insight, or maybe gain some resources that they need or lacked or didn't have. So when the Sangha comes together, it's where the bodhisattvas meet. And a lot of times the Dharma is heard and spread. And maybe new sentient beings who are aspiring to take the Bodhisattva path can come. And they can meet other Sangha members, maybe find a teacher, maybe find something that they are attracted to. Or maybe find a different Sangha. Sometimes that helps out too. So there are many churches, all different and various, that meet the needs of the many different type of people in this world and times. So if you go to one organization and it's not necessarily working for you, go to a different one, find one, or create one. Like I said, it only takes 3 Buddhists to make a Sangha. So the Bodhisattva adapts to the conditions, the localities, and the customs of the people, who they are from, and who they bring the Dharma to. We are not here to import Japanese or South Asian culture. And a lot of times these cultural teaching schools are called traditions, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to follow those traditions exactly in a culture that sees these schools as foreign, as outside, and as apart. It does Buddhism no good to bring in a foreign culture when the locality sees that as weird, foreign, and it's more or less rejected. So the Bodhisattva adapts. So we can look at the core essence, what is the core essence of the teachings, the school, and maybe try to take that and morph that into our people and our customs. And thus we make the Dharma accessible to everybody around us. So if the Sangha does not match your culture or your locality, then find a different Sangha or start your own. And I have said this many times so far, but it's so true. If you go to a temple and it's just Asian people from a particular country or region, and it's not really matching what your culture, what you think, or what you of your personality, find a different Sangha. If you go to a Zen center and what they're doing there doesn't jive with you, isn't working out, then go to a different Zen center. And lastly, you can certainly start your own. Nobody's stopping you. You don't need permission from anybody. All right, so why do we do this? What's the whole goal here? There's a point to all of this, and the point is Buddhahood. And this is something that all bodhisattvas are working towards. It is the goal of the bodhisattva is to achieve Buddhahood in this life. Now, of course, we would say that, we generate good merit, and generally good merit would be the burning out of habitual mind. That would be that all of the habits of our mind, all of the unconscious and all of the intuitive habits of thought, habits of comfort, habits of lust or hate in our mind have pretty much been vanquished, have pretty much been quelched. And thus we achieve merit this way. In the Bodhisattva Path, we are striving to achieve Buddhahood. This is the biggest goal. And this is the goal that you would have to understand and have faith in and believe that Buddhahood can be achieved in this life, that there are Buddhas in this world, and that you can do this. So the Sangha is there to provide whatever assistance they can so that the Bodhisattva can reach this goal. This is what we can constantly need to remind each other of, that this is why we are here. This is why we come together. We are here to help. I am not here to stand in your way. I'm not here to hinder you. I mean, that sometimes people they will say, well, their Sangha has caused problems for them. Then again, find a different Sangha or find a different teacher. Some people can easily grow into a Sangha, and they can grow out of a Sangha. Just because you start with a particular teacher does not mean that you need to stay there. Some teachers are there just that you start with them and then you grow out of them, you move on. All right, so lastly, like I said, you have to believe in Buddha and have faith that you can become Buddha for any of this to work. The faith is extremely important within the Bodhisattva Path. And of course, there's a lot of doubts, a lot of resistance that you will need to overcome and that you will encounter deep within your core self. And this is where the Sangha can very quickly help you with their assistance, maybe get past a lot of your doubts and get past a lot of your questions and your nagging issues that are keeping you from becoming Buddha. All right, so I think at this point I really do need to talk about these so-called Zen lineages and what exactly are we talking about when we talk about Zen. So a lineage, and I'm now talking mostly about the Zen lineages, means family, and that is a family in the feudal aspect would be anybody under the control of a sovereign. That would be a lord or a temple, a landowner. And in Zen, and as well as in other Buddhist traditions, when you join a lineage, you are joining the family of the founder. That's what we're really talking about here. You are giving up your prior family, you're giving up your other family titles and roles or any prior positions you may have had. And oftentimes, sometimes when you join a family, they even ask you to change your name to that of the family. And you may see this in some other non-Buddhist groups. So when you join a family, this often entails embracing the family culture and style. So if the family is from another country or another culture, or they have a home style that their family has embraced for, decades or centuries, then you take on this family culture and style. And you sometimes see that now within the Zen centers of this second and even third generation Western students still embracing a very Japanese style of culture. You're honoring the family founder and successors. A lot of times this would be the likenesses of the founder and the successors of the original founder that are prayed to. And this is a leftover of ancestor worship, in the belief that the family founders and the successors, their spirits are still with you, and that you are bringing them honor, and you're bringing them substance by honoring them. Again, this is a very Japanese notion. It's a throwback to Shinto. It's a throwback to a lot of non-Buddhist religions, the ancestor worship. And you still see this in the Zen centers, where you'll have second and third generation Zen students, Zen priests, Zen successors who have actually no bloodline or genetic connection to the family founder, still engaging in this pre-Buddhist ancestor worship here. You will have an oath of loyalty to the family. It's a very feudalistic style oath. It's basically you're pledging to the family, as in like a warrior would pledge, or you're making an oath to the family. You're relinquishing all other titles, all family associations from the past. You will marry who the family chooses for you. And this is very important. This is something that a lot of the Zen priests and the Zen monks don't really understand. But you do, once you join a family, especially if, say, you take Dharma transmission from a Japanese lineage, you are joining that family. You just can't go marry who you want to most of the time. A lot of times that has to be approved by the family, or the family will choose for you. Now, in the case of a temple, where it's still held by the direct family bloodline successors, if it's a male who's still in control of the family temples, generally they will marry a girl that the mother or the uncles or the family in general approves of. If it's a woman or girl who is the sole successor and there is no male heir, a lot of times the father will arrange in a marriage with another male who may be the second son or the third son of another family that holds temples. And I'll get into what's going on with that in a moment. So actually, I met a young Japanese girl when I was at the San Francisco Zen Center, who was running away from Japan because her father was insisting that she marry a Japanese man that she did not know and did not care for, because the father wanted to keep the temples within the family. Otherwise, without a male heir, he would lose the family temple back to the Sodashu, who would then probably divide up his properties among other rivals. Lastly, when you join a family, you're giving your personal wealth and holdings to the family. So whatever properties and personal wealth that you have, now become that of the family that you've just made your lineage with. So what happened in Japan? This is kind of an important issue. In Japan since 1864, it was the Meiji Restoration, sometimes also called the Meiji Revolution. And I've gone over this in other videos. So basically, it was just the uprising of the shogun against the westernization of Japan. So the temples were held. So basically, after the Meiji Restoration, the temples were held by families, and they were passed down through inheritance. Father to son or daughter to marry a chosen husband, and they keep the temples in the family names and in the family control. And when Zen came to the West, a lot of times what ended up happening was that properties, they had money and they purchased properties and purchased buildings here, and they started sub-temples here in the West. And maybe if they even didn't have money, they raised the monies and they created temples here in the West. Sometimes families or Japanese men who were kicked out of Japan, and there was a few instances of that because after World War II, some of these Zen priests had to leave Japan, or else they would face persecution for what they did in World War II. And that's a whole nother story. They came to the West and they founded temples and they founded teaching centers, but they still kept it in the lineage of family, and that anybody that would join their family kind of became the heirs of their empire, but they still had to follow the family culture and style. Very important stuff. All right, so let's get into the truth about the Zen lineages in the West. At least these are what I would call the big Zen center. And this is sort of what has become of the Zen organizations that these Japanese men, and that was not, it wasn't brought over. These were more or less Japanese men who intended to start their own sub-temples or temples here in the West, and what became of them. So the Western Zen centers still follow the Japanese lineage models. Now, though the assets belong to the organization rather than to a family name. So there's most of these big organizations now in the West, they're no longer directly controlled by a family member. They're more or less now controlled by the organization itself. But they do keep the Japanese lineage model well and alive. The Western Zen centers that are large, such as the Zen Center of Los Angeles or the San Francisco Zen Center, their lineage holders are known as the transmitted teachers, and the transmitted just means that these are teachers that have made an oath to the Japanese family lineage model, and they can be appointed to sub-temples or some temples that the organizations hold, and they have the right to teach in that organization, and they have the right to have students of their own. And this is something that is very important when this would be like these are the recognized priests within those organizations. And kind of, I think the organizations also realize what I was telling you, that not one teacher may only be able to help a certain subsect of students. Not one teacher fits everybody's needs. So they would want to have many different kinds of teachers with different personalities and different methods or different ideas of how to teach. But it would all be within this Japanese lineage model that they still cling to. Now, in Japan, Dharma transmission is automatic. So after about 5 years. So in this joining the family, it's kind of considered inappropriate or scandalous for a monk after about 5 years who does not receive Dharma transmission. There would be something wrong with that. Though here in the West, it is more arbitrary and capricious as to who is given the Dharma transmission within these Japanese lineage family models. And this has led to some extreme bitter infighting and corruption within the Zen centers here, especially the big ones, that control multiple large temples and sub-temples and hundreds of transmitted teachers. So the lineages in the West, there's really no protection of position. Such Dharma transmission priests like Ed Brown of the San Francisco Zen Center have been kicked out on whimsical accusations by rivals. So in Japan, once you become a family member, transmitted teacher, there's no way they can kick you out. There's no way they can deny you access to the temple or anything like that. That would be viewed as scandalous and just unheard of. And more than likely, the Sodashu would get involved as a headquarters organization to find out what's going on. But here in the West, because there really is no headquarter organization and there really is no oversight, organizations like the San Francisco Zen Center can do as they please. And if they have enough rivals ganging up on who they see as a contender or against them, they will just kick them out on any pretext. So many who have received the organization's Dharma transmission never teach, never become an abbot of any temple, so they're never appointed to any of the sub-temples or to lead any of the big temples, and they never have students of their own. And to be honest with you, many leave after they receive Dharma transmission and never come back. This last line here, I've met many Dharma transmitted Zen teachers who, after receiving the transmission, left because they realized that was it. That was all that they were going to get from the Japanese lineage models. And that was that, when they say if this is it, because they felt that they had still a long ways to go, they left. And a lot of them have gone off to do different things, to explore different paths. All right, so let's talk about some weaknesses and hindrances within the Sanghas. So these are things that a Sangha can run up against. These are things that can happen to a Sangha. So the Buddha, he stated that the biggest hazard to the monks and the bodhisattvas are bad kings. That would be the tyrants. So that was like the number one on the list, because a bad king will basically kill the monks. They will kill the religion. So basically unfavorable political governments that oppress the Sangha and its members. This has happened throughout Buddhism. It can happen right now, and it'll probably happen in the future. Disasters like famines, wars, economic ruin, and natural disasters. These are big issues for Sanghas. Actually, the Buddha had told the bhikkhus that during time of famine or wars that they should disrobe, because there would be nobody there to take care of them. There would really be no laity or no laymen to go on alms rounds. Same thing with economic ruin or natural disaster, in where if the people are starving, you cannot expect them to for them to give you the food that they need themselves. So the Buddha has told the bhikkhus that during these times, you disrobe and you go out and do what you can do to help, and then when these issues are over, come back. Okay, so another issue within the Sanghas is fake Buddhism and non-Buddhist teachings being allowed to dominate. This is the fake Buddhism part is very big, I think, right now in the West. There's a lot of organizations. They call themselves like secular Buddhism, or some of them just call themselves like Vipassana, or they call themselves Some of them will just say, well, we're just a Zen center, and they kind of chop out the Buddhism part. And we enter into this fake Buddhism. A lot of times they bring in a lot of psychology, they bring in a lot of pseudoscience, they bring in a lot of yoga and other kinds of views. And some of them also bring in these political activisms. They would say, oh, we're going to fight social injustices and get into social change or get into climate change. And these are non-Buddhist teachings. It's fake Buddhism, and they end up dominating the temple, and suddenly the Bodhisattva Path has vanquished. People are no longer doing that. And lastly, then we have the doubts, fears, and worries that the Sangha has allowed to fester. And sometimes this could be doubts of the teacher, doubts of the teachings, doubts of even the path, the fears and worries of maybe of current events or of their own personal intents. And a lot of times that these can be allowed to sort of just dominate and fester within the Sangha and are not really dealt with properly. And then you can also have, lastly, evil people. This would be like the arrogant lay people, arrogant priests, and arrogant false sages. And I could sum this up by saying that the arrogant false sage would just be the bad teacher. And this would be the teacher that has set up the organization, or the teacher that has entered the organization with the sole intent of just using the organization for their own personal gains. All right, so let's talk about the strengths and advances. So our biggest strength is each other. And that's pretty much all. That is huge. The biggest strength is each other. So fellowship on the path, trust, honor, and respect. Anybody who has taken refuge in the triple gems is my fellowship, and I will give you the trust, honor, and respect up until the time that you have shown me through words and deeds that you do not follow the triple gem and you are not a Buddhist. And that is for you to decide how that would work out. But for me, I initially give these things to all Buddhists, and then it's up to them through their words and deeds to keep that, or maybe they throw it away. Because I've met a lot of people who will claim to be Buddhist, and then I watch them and they totally have not taken any heart in what they are doing. Lastly, next we have unconditional giving to the Bodhisattvas. And we help without expectations of return for oneself. So a lot of times, if I'm going to support a Bodhisattva, let's say I decide to give $100 a month to a particular Bodhisattva, or to a pot. Let's say we're going to throw it all in a bucket, and then they're going to divide that out among the more needing Bodhisattvas. I'm going to give that money without expectation, or without any expectations of what's going to happen. And if I give the money, I don't expect these guys to come bow to me. I give them 100, 1,000, 100,000. It doesn't matter. I shouldn't. It's not for me to decide how that Bodhisattva should spend that money. If the Bodhisattva is being foolish and doing things that are reckless, that will become self-evident in time. But on the other hand, I will just give without, like I said, without any condition. It's unconditional giving. So if I give like a priceless vase or painting to the Bodhisattva, and the Bodhisattva just sets it aside and doesn't do anything with it, it is not for me to give instructions to the Bodhisattva of what they should do with what I have given them. And it'd be the same thing as if somebody gave me money. I will spend that in the way that I choose fitting, and it's not for them to tell me how to spend it. Okay, so we also have the confession and the truth. We speak our hearts and we listen to others sincerely and earnestly. This is the confession ritual. It's really important in the Sangha, especially, and in Buddhism, to do this on a regular cycle. I mean, twice a month might be about right. Once a month at the minimum. And we speak our hearts and we listen to each other sincerely and earnestly. And it doesn't matter how politically incorrect or how offensive somebody may say something. Or if they're speaking in criticism of what we're doing, or if they're speaking in criticism about what another Bodhisattva is doing. It is our duty as Sangha members to listen to them with our hearts and be very sincerely and earnestly understand what they are saying and try to help. We are not there to indoctrinate or to mind control other bodhisattvas into any particular position. That is not what the Sangha is about. Alright, so we also provide companionship. We help each other on the path. We raise up. We can resurrect fallen brothers and sisters who have strayed from the path. Bear witness to our fellow... Bear witness to our bodhisattva confessions, and bring new sentient beings into the world to teach the Dharma and become Buddha. So, with this part here, the companionship, this is kind of a big thing here. We help each other on the path, as in friendship, as in assistance, as in just companionship in general. Raise each other up. People, brothers and sisters who have strayed, maybe they're having doubts, maybe they're having questions, maybe they're engaging in immoral activities, maybe they're doing things that are not necessarily helpful. We can bring them back, or maybe they have left. Maybe we haven't seen them for a while, and maybe we should go check up on them, give them a phone call, write them a letter, go knock on their door, see if there's something going on. Maybe something happened that was so dire and so crazy that they felt they couldn't show up, and maybe we can help them. This whole idea that if people leave, don't chase after them, I think is completely selfish. It's completely is incorrect. So, and we also bear witness to our fellow bodhisattvas' confessions. It is important. It is extremely important to not only speak your what is holding you back from enlightenment to your fellow bodhisattvas, but also to hear from other fellow bodhisattvas what's keeping them from enlightenment. It helps in such ways you cannot even imagine. And lastly, there will be those bodhisattvas who will want to join together and bring new bodhisattvas into the world to teach the Dharma and become the Buddha. Now, this can be as simple as being evangelical, going out and recruiting new people to join the Sangha, or a couple becoming a wedded couple and birthing new people to join, to become future bodhisattvas and become Buddhas. And this is again, that goes into that definition of the path. And I know that a lot of Buddhists and a lot of especially Zen practitioners, when the part of children, they're like, oh, I don't want to have children. That's not what my path is. Well, that's your path. I have met a lot of Buddhists, a lot of Zen practitioners who want to have children, and they want to raise children in a Buddhist environment to teach them the Dharma and to bring them to the Bodhisattva path. And both positions are the correct position in my mind. There is no one way. There is no one view. All right, so go back to this. Here we are. So the conclusions that I have here are that the Sangha generally is what it can be. Some Sanghas will hold a particular view of the Bodhisattva path that will be different than other Sanghas. So, like I have here, how the Bodhisattva path is interpreted and implemented in one locality and culture may not work for a different locality and culture. It is our task to properly understand our responsibility to the Bodhisattva path and implement it into our lives in our own location and culture. And I don't know how else I can say this. I have probably every video I have made is talking about this, that Buddhism is not about bringing over Japanese thinking and culturalisms. Buddhism and Zen is not about becoming Japanese and speaking. It's not about speaking Japanese or playing Japanese music or dressing up like Japanese, agrarian culture, or looking like a samurai, or pretending we're in some sort of neo-feudalistic society. Or we're not there to play out episodes of Kung Fu. This is very important, and a lot of people you'll see, and I've told you in the past that they end up LARPing, live action role playing. That is because they are advocating responsibility to the Bodhisattva path. They are not taking any responsibility. They have put all that responsibility on a teacher or on the organization, and they are taking no responsibility. You have to take responsibility for the Bodhisattva path. You have to make the Sangha your Sangha. You have to make it within our culture, within our locality. And you also have to have the Sangha with the people that share your goals. They don't necessarily have to be implementing what it is that you're doing. If you're deciding that you want to go make children and bring your children to the Dharma, at least they have to support that. If they're against that, or if they claim that is not the path, then go find a different Sangha. Now, if you're like, no, I really would just want to be with other renunciates, people that are, renouncing from the world, there are Sanghas for that too, and you should probably then find those Sanghas. So, as the many different types of bodhisattvas, there are the many different types of Sanghas. So we also need to recognize that Buddhism, for the most part, is a parallel society, meaning it exists alongside whatever dominant culture that exists at the time and the place. We are not here to change the politics, to engage in social engineering, or to rule over the world. And this part here seems to be what most organizations forgot, that they think Buddhism should be the dominant society, but it's not. It's always been a parallel society and always will be. It's just the very structure and nature of the teachings. And many Buddhists, they claim that the Bodhisattva path is politics, is engaging in social engineering, and is ruling over the world. This is some sort of messianic delusion that they engage into, and it is complete foolishness and complete insanity to think like that. So it is only you that can choose for yourself how to be the Bodhisattva. It is for you to take the full responsibility of the Bodhisattva path and to claim it for your own. Nobody can walk it for you. Nobody can tell you how to do it for you. Nobody can make you a Buddha. It is you that makes you a Buddha. And it is you that makes the Sangha the Sangha. The teacher is just another Bodhisattva like you. They are no higher and no lower. You can go to the elder Sangha members, and you'll find that the same thing is that they are no higher or lower than the teacher as well. It's just that generally there is, with any Sangha group, there's always going to be a leader, and that's natural. There's always going to be that one person or that one particular core group that sort of decides how things are going to go. And that particular core group, if they have views and they have particular ways that they're doing things that you don't like or isn't supportive of your interpretation of the Bodhisattva Path, then find a different group or make one of your own. Books are easy to find. You go to Amazon, you buy books. The Zen centers, they all teach the same thing. No Zen center is going to be teaching something radically unique or different or secretive than the other Zen centers. Generally, within the first 2 or 3 weeks, everything that they teach and do, you'll find out. It won't take long. There is no secret power. There is no mystical alien transmission or God that is there only for certain kinds of students. That does not exist. There is no special ritual or special rite or special chant that will change anything. It doesn't exist. All that this is, and all that a Sangha is a group of people who maybe share a particular view of the Bodhisattva Path and are there to help each other. Now, like I said, if your Bodhisattva path is interpreted differently, then you go to a Sangha that at least recognizes and will support your view. If they're opposed to your view, then that is not a Sangha for you. If you go to a Sangha and it's people who are LARPing in a different culture, who are viewing the culture as enlightenment, or maybe they're viewing some aspect of the ecclesiastical nature of the church that the Sangha is claiming affiliation with as enlightenment, or they somehow see that these rituals and these chantings are magical, that we're doing magic. Well, maybe that is not a Sangha for you either. And people can have whatever ideas they want. If they feel that the chanting and the rituals and all of the wearing robes and lighting of candles and burning of incense is magic, that is for them. If they want to call down spirits and engage in demonology and spiritology, that is for them. And if you choose to walk that path, then you walk that path and find out for yourself what happens. But that is not what Buddha taught. Buddha did not teach us to call in spirits and demons. Buddha did not teach us to engage in magic. Though it does exist, and there are Buddhist organizations that definitely engage in deep magic, it's not the path of Buddhism. And it's definitely not the path of Zen. So, but nevertheless, I can't say if that is something for you or not. That is for you to choose. All right. So that's my talk. It's part 1 on building a strong Sangha. Especially for the Zen students, my feeling is that within Zen, the Sanghas have gotten very myopic. They're only seeing the path through a very narrow tube, a very narrow straw. And that a lot of what we should be is been stunted by clinging to these Japanese family lineage imports, which I think are archaic, I think are a hindrance, and I think are holding back. I think it's really keeping the organization small and keeping Buddhism small, mostly because I think people fear bringing in different views, and I think they fear bringing in different ideas. And I also think that there's a lot of very insincere people that are sitting in these Zen centers. I think there's a lot of cults in these Zen centers, and I think that there's a lot of mischief going on there that people who are in power enjoy. They enjoy their positions, and they do not want to have anything that they're doing exposed, and they do not want to have their fun time interrupted with. All right, so again, thank you very much for listening to my lecture here. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. Remember to subscribe to this if you want to see more of my videos. Okay, thank you, and